We extend a special welcome to those of you who are single, to those of you who are married, to those of you who are divorced, to those of you who are gay, to those of you who are filthy rich and dirt poor and y no habla inglés. We extend a special welcome to those who are crying newborns, skinny as a rail, or could afford to lose a few pounds. We welcome you if you can sing like Andre Bocelli or like our pastor, who really can't sing very well himself. You're welcome here if you're just browsing, just woke up, or just got out of jail. We don't care if you're more Catholic than the Pope or haven't been to church since little Joey's baptism. We extend a special welcome to those of you who are over 60 but not grown up yet, and to teenagers who are growing up too fast. We welcome soccer moms, NASCAR dads, starving artists, tree huggers, latte sippers, vegetarians, and junk food eaters. We welcome those of you who are in recovery and still addicted. We welcome you if you're having problems, or if you're down in the dumps, or even if you don't like organized religion. If you blew all of your offering money at the dog track yesterday, you are welcome here. We offer a special welcome to those who think the earth is flat, work too hard, don't work, can't spell, or because grandma's in town, you ended up in church this morning. We welcome those who are inked and pierced, or both. We offer a special welcome to those who could use a prayer right now. Had hard religion shoved down your throat as a kid, or got lost in traffic and wound up here by mistake. We welcome tourists, seekers, doubters, bleeding hearts, and mostly we welcome you. We give thanks for these living joys and sorrows, those which were spoken and those which are left unsaid. We remember those of our number who are not here today, their joys and sorrows, and we also take into our own lives. May we never cease to remember and be glad that out of all the world we can share our lives one with the other. May we enter into the magic of silence, one with the other. And as we silently think on these things, may the Spirit of life renew us. This poem from Allen Ginsberg, and it is not called Howl. It is called song. The weight of the world is love. Under the burden of solitude, under the burden of dissatisfaction, the weight we carry is love. Who can deny? In our dreams, it touches the body. In our thoughts, a miracle in imagination anguishes till born inhuman. It looks out from the heart, burning with purity, for the burden of life is love. But we carry the weight wearily, and so must rest in the arms of love at last, must rest in the arms of love. Yes, yes, that's what I wanted. I've always wanted to return to the body where I was born. May our meditations then embrace one another, and may our prayers be prayers for peace. May these things be so. It's actually pronounced Eros, not Eros or Eros or Eros, but it's Eros. And I looked that up, so that's what it's called. Recently, I told the Worship Associates team that I was changing around some of the themes for the services in these final weeks because I wanted to be sure I said everything I wanted to say and be able to put out the best stuff at the end. And by that, I mean the stuff that I personally like a lot. So today's service and next week's service, which is about passion, and then the week after that, which is about my favorite topic, which is cheap theology. These are all ideas and visions which turn me on. And today, the idea that turns me on is Eros. What could be more fun than to deal with Eros, the erotic energy that is all around us and within us? And what could be better than to celebrate Eros and to praise that erotic world which permeates and enlivens all of human reality? Did you notice the word erotic and how that has a certain feeling to it, a certain effect to it? How there's something suspect about that, something naughty perhaps, even sinful about erotic. Imagine going home today and telling the folks that the preacher talked about the erotic, but he did not condemn it, but praised it. And they might respond by saying, "Where is that church anyway? I think I'll go down there." I do wish to celebrate Eros today, and in the celebration there will be a closer look at who Eros really is, or what Eros really is. We imagine a chubby little angel who shoots arrows at people, who then are slain by feelings of great love. And we know that Eros is, in fact, the Greek version of the god of love. And I want to tell you from the beginning that Eros is my own personal god. I believe in Eros. Eros has all of the things that any good god should have. He has at the core of its existence the idea of love, and he goes around spreading that love between people. He's also in Greek mythology considered to be one of the what they called primordial gods, which means the gods that were not born, but who were existent throughout eternity backward, and that everything else came out of God. And in some versions of Greek mythology, Eros is the creator god of the world, that magnificent, sparkling energy that makes the world go was there at the very beginning, very much like the Genesis story, that there was electricity and suddenly the universe came into existence. And chaos, which was another Greek god, was defeated at that time. So Eros has it all. And he's even cute. And you know, that can be something. Most of the pictures of the traditional god, you know, the old guy with the long flowing and the finger pointing and all that, is not very nice. But Cupid is cute. Eros is cute. The great energy of the universe. Wild and out of control originally, a terrifying energy which gave birth to all that we know. And it's the great energy of the universe. We might speak of it as what we say, the spirit of life itself. I believe that's Eros. And its association with love is not accidental. Eros is, I believe, the spirit of love also, which is a strange and fantastic energy which I think draws all things toward union. It draws everything which is separate into one. It is a powerful force which draws people together and makes them attractive to one another. It is the same force that draws all formulations of matter to all other formulations of matter. Perhaps what we could call gravity, which some scientists now say is the fundamental energy of the entire universe. Eros. Here is my personal definition of Eros, and it comes from the great Brian Swimme, astrophysicist and mythologist. Eros is the great allurement which draws all the universe toward union, coming together in union. And this coming together in union often sends out sparks, and all the language that we use about love and how love happens has this dangerous edge to it, this kind of violent quality to it. Hence, Eros has a bow and arrow, and he shoots forth to people who are then drawn together. So there's a violence in all of this. And I think that violence goes back to the original primordial energy that Eros had at the beginning of the world. The great allurement which draws all into union, which draws all the universe into union. Eros. Some of you may know about a wonderful poet and philosopher and spiritual teacher of the last century named Audre Lorde. And she wrote this wonderful book called Sister Outsider, in which she talks a lot about the uses of the erotic as power. You remember, Audre Lorde was one of those on the cutting edge of feminism back in the 1970s and 80s and 90s. Here's what she said: "There are many kinds of power, used and unused, acknowledged or otherwise. The erotic is a resource within each of us that lies in a deeply female and spiritual plane, firmly rooted in the power of unexpressed and unrecognized feelings." And we've been taught to suspect this resource, vilified, abused, and devalued in our Western culture. There are frequent attempts to equate pornography, for instance, and eroticism. But the two are actually diametrically opposed uses of the sexual. Because of these attempts, it has become fashionable to separate the spiritual from the political. And we have separated the spiritual from the erotic, thereby reducing the spiritual to a world of flattened affect, the world of the ascetic who aspires to feel nothing. And she continues to say, the dichotomy between the spiritual and the political is also false, resulting in an incomplete attention to our own inner erotic knowledge. For the bridge that connects them is formed by the erotic, the sensual, those physical, emotional, and psychic expressions of what is deepest and strongest and richest within each of us, being shared, the passions of love in its deepest meanings. When we say, it feels right to me, we are actually acknowledging the erotic as true knowledge, the first and most powerful guiding light toward any kind of understanding. It feels right to me. The erotic is the nurturer and the deliverer of our deepest knowledge. The erotic comes to me in several important ways, she says, and the first is in providing the power which comes from sharing deeply any pursuit with any other person. That attraction of the pursuit, one with the other, the sharing of joy, whether physical, emotional, psychic, or intellectual, forms a bridge between what Martin Buber called I and thou. The bridge is the source of erotic energy. Another way in which the erotic connection functions is the underlying of our capacity for joy. In the way my body stretches, for instance, to music and opens into response, hearkening its deepest rhythms, so that every level upon which I sense also opens to the erotically satisfying experience, whether it is dancing or building a bookcase or writing a poem or examining an idea in a group discussion. She tells this interesting story. During World War II, we bought sealed plastic packets of white uncolored margarine with a tiny, intense pellet of yellow coloring perched like a topaz just inside the clear skin of the bag. We would leave the margarine out for a while to soften it, and then we would pinch the little pellet to break it inside the bag, releasing rich yellowness into the soft mass of margarine. And then taking it carefully between our fingers, we would knead it gently back and forth and over until the color had spread throughout the whole bag of margarine, thoroughly coloring it, thoroughly enriching it. Maybe you remember that, those of you who remember World War II. She says, I found the erotic a kernel within myself, just like that little kernel of yellow inside the bland margarine. When released from the intense and constrained pellet, it flows through and colors my life with a kind of energy that heightens and sensitizes and strengthens all of my experience. The word erotic, of course, comes from Eros, the personification of love in all of its aspects. And I think Eros also personifies personal power and harmony. The erotic is an assertion of the life force of humanity, of that creative energy empowered, the knowledge and use of which we are here to reclaim in our language, our history, our dancing, our loving, our work, our lives. And there is a flow going all around us. You can feel it really if you just notice it. Hold your breath and feel it, and it is there. And what is it? It's that great energy of the universe and it is everywhere and is in all things. We might say that it is the spirit of life, and I think it is even more than that, in that it is the mover energy which absolutely is necessary for the world's ongoing existence. The word hunger has been used in many ways, but I think in a way it's almost a synonym for eros, hunger, the hunger of the universe. Do you know about hunger? Do you know about thirst, about wanting? Why is it that you want? Why is it that you're reaching out to make a connection? It is because you are not complete, because you desire the thing which will complete you. If I only had this one thing, and we're constantly needy and vulnerable, and we hunger for breath, we hunger for food, we thirst for water, we hunger for touch, for closeness, and we yearn for the desires of love. We hunger for touch and closeness. We become ill, we become disabled, we age, we are needy, we are vulnerable beings. And yet through it all, the awareness of our need to reach out and to connect stays with us throughout our life. And it seems to me that we spend our whole lives wanting. And I'm not now speaking of how our culture teaches us to want. It does that, but there is some deeper desire, perhaps in the human soul, which is desirous. And I believe we are longing for that completeness, searching for what it is missing. It is this inner desire which Madison Avenue utilizes to its own nefarious advantage, as we all know. And I'm not referring to some kind of original brokenness, some original bad thing in the human spirit. But there does seem to be something missing, some innate longing for something which we do not yet possess. Perhaps you know what I'm talking about. If someone asks you, are you satisfied with your life? What would be your response? Are you satisfied with your life? And in what ways are you satisfied? In what fundamental ways are you not satisfied? Longing, desire, wanting. I think I'm really talking about Eros, which I believe it is the energy that draws the universe into union, that energizes our desires and our satisfaction and our fundamental wanting. Eros recognizes this incompleteness and is drawn to another body, whether it's a heavenly body or whether it's a human body. Eros recognizes our incompleteness, and it energizes us to move toward the other body. It fuels our desires by indicating our lack. Our lack is an uncompleted circle in which we are not yet connected. Connection is a key to all of this. You've heard me say that I believe the word connection is a good synonym for the word religion. It's that which ties and binds together into a connection. I think we're talking about heaven when we talk about connection. And hell is what I would refer to as being disconnected, to be apart from other bodies, from other souls. Have you ever realized that we are this disconnected, unattached, and alone in so many ways? And perhaps the poem from Allen Ginsberg said that in the final verse, which says, yes, that's what I want. I've always wanted to return to the body where I was born. I have a confession to make, and I'm a little embarrassed. I think I may have mentioned this somewhere before along the way of my life. I've dabbled into the world of art. And in fact, I actually worked as a commercial artist to make ends meet when I was in an undergraduate school 100 years ago. I worked in a publishing house and really liked it until one day they came through the office with a new ruling that we must start filling out time cards on the projects that we were working on. And I remember one of my projects was that I used to do illustrations for Sunday school literature. So I would read the story for that week and came up with an illustration of it. And then they said, well, this is all good, but you got to fill out time cards because we need to institutionalize this and get it nailed down. We're in a business here and we got to make sure that everybody's doing their job. Well, I was very upset by this new procedural regimen, and since I could not imagine that my artistic impulse could possibly be regulated by a time card of all things. But that's what they wanted, and that's what eventually drove me out of the commercial art business. But the reason I bring that up as part of my ancient history is something else, and here's my confession. When I see a blank piece of drawing paper, when I see a new canvas, an unused piece of writing paper, a piece of unformed clay, or any other artistic medium, I realize I'm actually thrilled at looking at that blankness. I'm thrilled that I am daunted and I am reverent. I'm thrilled at the possibilities of what I can somehow imagine, although not specifically. I'm also intimidated by those possibilities, and I'm very respectful. Huge and powerful feelings as I gaze into that blankness, knowing that by my hand, something can be created. Something out of nothing can be created. So I recall this prayer from C.K. Chesterton. He says, you say grace before meals, all right, but I say grace before the play and before the opera, and grace before the concert and the pantomime, and grace before I open a book, and grace before I sketch painting, swimming, fencing, walking, playing, dancing, and grace before I dip the pen into the ink. Because I know that I'm beginning to walk on sacred ground. And it is then that I turn to my God, Eros, to help me make that connection between what is in my soul and in my mind and in my heart, and to put it into connection outside of myself with something else. The allurement that draws all the universe into union. In fact, I am sometimes frightened by this energy, since we are talking about Eros, the magnificent allurement. It is the union of things which is the center of this sermon, and how all things are forever and enthusiastically moving toward union, including what is deep inside of me. Ginsburg, the body I was born in, and as it moves out into my relationship with you. When I perform weddings, here is my typical sermon in the service. This is the heart of the ceremony. We come here to honor and to celebrate you two publicly as you declare your commitment of love to one another. And we also celebrate that magnificent power which brought you together, what the Greeks called Eros, the allurement which urges all the universe toward union. It is the coming together of separates into intimacy. It is what we now call love. Let us praise this wondrous force which transforms lives and brings goodness and health and blessedness to all souls in all places. It is the life-giving thing. My God, Eros. Please join
Amen.
hands for the benediction, or join elbows or arms. Let us be connected in this important moment. These words from Rumi, one of our favorite poets around here. And this has to do with Eros and what Eros does to all of us. Dance as though no one is watching. Love as though you've never been hurt before. Sing as though no one can hear you. Work as though you don't need the money. And live as though heaven is right here on earth. Amen.